The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. If you enjoy our work, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow the links in the description. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Greetings and salutations, listener. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by my fellow undead for once, the boy.
Hey!
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and today we're talking about an extremely timely and relevant topic, Dark Souls.
Alright, look, listener. So, I think a good way to bridge into this is to talk again about what the good fucking deal Xbox Live Gold is.
Yeah, dude, I don't remember how much we pay a month. I want to say it's like $15.
Sure, maybe.
Might even be 10. But they give you access to 4 free games. The Xbox 360 games are always backward compatible. The Xbox One games are kind of a crapshoot. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're garb. Depends on what you like out of your games. But we've got a fucking library of shit on there. Now, you do, much like the PlayStation Plus, have to keep your subscription current to keep using them.
Which is only fair. I mean, not every company is Audible.
We both took a drink at the same time there, so you got to enjoy radio silence.
Yeah. Audible being that even if you cancel your subscription, you get to keep the book.
Yeah.
Not every company does that. A lot of them use the heavy anchor-like weight of all of your many games as a way of locking you in for further $15 a month.
Well, it's cheaper in the long run to just stay subscribed. Enough of the stuff we use on Xbox, like Overwatch, we use online play for. So, fuck it. Why bother unsubscribing? Unless money's an issue for you. And if it is, then you can watch when the sales are and what good stuff comes out, like I do with the PlayStation, and then just get it for a month when you decide to finally play some of those games.
Yep.
But many moons ago, Xbox gave me Dark Souls. And actually, if you look back on this channel, on one of my failed video concepts, The Genuine Reaction, the one and only episode I did was about Dark Souls, and why I did not care for it.
Now you may wonder, with that one and only video on there, why we are now doing a video in the Two Nerds Podcast format about Dark Souls. And no, it's not solely so you can hear me talk.
Oh, I thought it was going to be it's not solely because we have nothing else to talk about.
No, it is solely because of that. Like, don't lie to the listener.
No. I mean, this has become relevant in the house as of recently. Gosh, listener, I'm sure you know the phenomenon. Some cool game comes out and everybody likes the cool game, and you decide you don't want to like the cool game because of X reason. And X reason might be a perfectly good reason. You might have heard somebody that you really trust say that they didn't like the cool game, so you believe them. Why waste your money? You may just be tired of listening to everybody talk about how great the cool game is, so it's soured the game in your mind. You may have had an initial experience with the cool game that was not very... What's the word I'm looking for?
Good.
Yeah.
You may have been told by pretty much everyone who's ever played the cool game that it is the exact kind of game you don't want to play. However they phrase it, what they're saying always boils down to that. Could be many different things. It's possible we both mentioned what our situation was. It's possible we haven't. We'll let you decide.
No, I'll probably explain the situation.
I mean, me
half
too.
An hour to fill.
Me
dude.
too.
What are you talking about?
I was just memeing.
Yeah. Make it interesting on them.
But,
Will we find out what happened to the two nerds before this podcast? Stay tuned to the end for details.
I ate some food.
I irrigated my ears with peroxide.
Wow, gross. All right, so Dark Souls.
It was very clean, actually.
Dark Souls. So why don't you? I think this story begins with you. So.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to let you take point on this one, but I mean, you're absolutely right. So, for those of you guys who didn't see the Genuine Reaction video, which I imagine will be 5 of the 7 of you.
No.
No. I love each and every one of those 7, and I'm glad we have. Actually, we're up to about a dozen now.
Nice.
But I knew a guy years ago who told me to get a PS3 so I could play Demon Souls. And when my wife got a PS3, I didn't listen because our PS whatever ends up being that machine over there.
The machine that plays David Cage games.
Yeah, basically.
Plays Blu-ray discs and get David Cage games. That's what it's for.
Now, I've tried to branch out, and, my copy of Final Fantasy 15 is actually on the PS4. I played Firewatch on there, and there's a couple of other games I played on there that I'm pretty happy about. But it's not the default console.
That would be Microsoft's glorious Xbox.
Well, I mean, PlayStation did me wrong years ago. It was basically the nexus of this. This guy was a dyed-in-the-wool PlayStation fan.
I wanted the PS3 to be something I liked better than the Xbox 360 so much, and then it wasn't.
Well, I meant the guy I was talking to. But, I was too.
It's true.
I was very faithful to PlayStation until the PlayStation 3.
They did us wrong.
Where, if you weren't around for this section of history or weren't paying attention, they basically just lied to their fan base a lot before launch and after. And then did a bunch of shitty business practices that they continue to today, including how they remake games and then make you buy them again through the PlayStation Network. Unlike the Xbox, I will say Xbox has this. If they release a game that you have on disc or you had previously bought on the Xbox 360, if they make that back compat, you can just download it.
Which is super nice.
Or install it, again, if you have the disc. No additional fees. If you owned it, you owned it. Same for the DLC, and I've done that with all kinds of cool shit. That's super nice. PlayStation does shit shadier.
But with Dark Souls...
So the guy told me to try out Demon Souls. He told me it was like Dungeons and Dragons. He told me it was really hard, and I was like, nah, mate, thanks. I don't really want to fire up the PS3. I already had a couple of PS3 games I wasn't playing. Fast forward to, 2 years ago, I think. Maybe 3. Xbox gives us Dark Souls for free. And I was like, all right, okay. There's been all this hype for all these years. I want to see what the hype is about. So, with this game, downloaded from the internet, that is to say lacking a manual, with no friends, like close friends who played the game to give me any information on it, I fired this motherfucker up, and I tried.
Dark Souls doesn't make a good first impression.
No, it doesn't. Dark Souls...
Stepped on your meme there, and I apologize.
You did. That's all right. It probably was for the best. I have said time and time again since I picked this game back up that there are 2 things that I would change about the game. One, I think the tutorial needs a rework. I think it does a lot of stuff well. I think it does a lot of stuff horribly. And I think if you had a bit more of a thorough invitation to this game, it would be easier to pick up and enjoy and see it for what it is. That includes, explaining what the fuck each character class does, making clear that you probably only want to level, 3 of your stats early on.
The others being for the other classes.
Right. Exactly everything your stats do, which kind of folds in with the second thing I would change, and that is the non-dialogue translation is garbage. Like FF7 bad.
The dialogue does well.
Dialogue is okay, and I credit that partially at least to the actors. But the item descriptions and stuff are good. The stat descriptions and stuff, they're adequate, but they don't give you all the info you need to effectively play the game. So, man, if there's one thing that bugs me, it's realizing a quarter or maybe even halfway into a game that I fucked something up at character creation and feeling like I should go back and fix that. I have a little...
That's actually something I really dislike as well.
Yeah, I have a little tiny bit of that now because I dumped a couple of points into strength when I probably shouldn't have.
But they were the really early cheap-ass points.
Yeah, and it was just a couple, and I'm, whatever. It's whatever.
Gives you some more weapons you can use.
Yeah, it does. I wouldn't be able to use my katana as well without the extra points in strength. But the first 3 or 4 characters I made that I was trying to play this game with, I didn't have that information. A lot of the information about how how heavy your items are, how heavy your gear load is affecting your roll. I didn't understand that, and
Or
how
just
fast
the way
you
you
move.
move.
Yeah. Even for a while, I thought it was dexterity doing that. Nope, it was just I could carry more stuff, so the net value of what I was holding versus what I could hold decreased, so I became faster. And it's logic, but it's a video game. Those don't always follow logic. In fact, I don't fully expect them to. So I didn't have a good time. And I made my video, and then a couple months later, I was talking with the guy who did our songs. He didn't do them for us; he did them for himself. But then
We asked nicely if we could use them because they're great, and he said yes.
And that is, of course, Super Blizzard Shining Wasato. Link in the description, as always, as it has been for time immemorial.
And shall remain.
Yeah. And, there was a strong defense of Dark Souls there. He's a big fan, and was like, nah, dude, you gotta do this, you gotta get into it like this. And I was like, okay, now I'm not gonna pretend like we're close or anything. I talk with Super Blizzard about as frequently as I do, now less frequently than I do with Chef Lubu. And, that's just a restaurant man / video game comedy man or Brental Floss. Yes, we have a small amount of rapport, but there's a distance between us. It's not like the boy and I, or, any of my other friends. The SpongeBob meme I'm talking about. So I actually, here recently, under his advisement, I went and tried the game again, went forward, looked up some stuff online. That wasn't super helpful, because what I always hear about Dark Souls is, okay, yeah, it's super hard, but it's just... Man, what was the way they used to phrase it?
I don't know, dude.
It was something like that. There's a rhythm to it that you just kind of have to practice. You just kind of have to get it.
Oh. GIT space GUD. Get good, I believe is how they phrased it.
No, they were being nice to me.
So they phrased get good with more words. Okay, good.
Basically. But what they were getting at is there's a lot to appreciate about the game. I just wasn't quite there yet, But if you don't know what that nebulous hurdle is, it's a hell of a lot harder to get into the game. So, fast forward another year, let's say 6 months maybe. I'm talking to another friend of mine about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't know you tried to play it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't really care for it. There wasn't much plot, and most of the stuff wasn't very fair, and I didn't move very well, and my weapons kind of sucked." And he was like, "Well, okay, first of all, yes, there is. Secondly, well, did you do this? Well, what about this? Well, what were your stats?" So I fired it up to check it out, and curiosity got the better of me, and I kept playing. And for those of you who have played Dark Souls, I was stuck on the fire before the Taurus demon. That can be a hard fight when you are a melee character, as I was. I had ground up about 10 more levels than I needed. But I was still having a tough time just because of, that long slog of combat between the fire and the demon, and the fact that it's a tough boss, that if you're melee, you probably want to cheese the first time through by going up that ladder and jumping on his head. Once I did that, however, I felt like a golden god. And I kept going with my friend's encouragement. And he would tell me, oh, be sure you check out this path. It wouldn't be so much like, the Knight Solaire's over there. He's a really cool guy. He's that praised the sun, bro. Go talk to him. You can use him to fight guys later on. He was really cool about it. He was like, you check to the right. Something cool over there. Okay. Be sure you check out this if you see it, kind of shit. Or be prepared if there was something dangerous coming that way. Occasionally, just laughter. And slowly but surely, I began to really understand the nuances and appreciate them, and find my own interpretation of what the game is. And if someone had said to me 2 years ago, this game is Nintendo hard. In some places, it's in that nasty little valley between regular difficult and fucking unfair.
And in some places, it was all the way into the other side of that valley.
It depends on your build, really. Like, and those places do not overlap in the Venn diagram. The boy, he started up as a mage because a sorcerer.
Yeah, all right. So my end of this.
Sure, yeah. You talk for a while. I'll drink water.
He was playing for a while, and you know how when you're into something, especially video games, as a nerd, most of you are nerds. Most of you listener are nerds, and you start talking. You end up talking with it about your friends. And it's really, really easy to do that nerd thing where you're talking about it with someone who's not into it, and then you just sort of word vomit at them for a while about it.
I tried very hard not to.
You did try very hard. So when he was doing that, no, I kid a little bit. He was just talking about stuff, and I didn't have the context for it.
Sure.
Because I never played Dark Souls. Because I was told studiously by several very, very popular gaming review sites, and people whose opinions on games I trust, and people who I trust personally on games, that it was exactly what kind of game it was, and I studiously judged it and went, oh, it's unfair garbage, I probably won't like it. Now, when I say unfair garbage, I'm making a specific point. He already used the term Nintendo hard, and that's more what I mean. It's a game whose difficulty is partially or primarily generated from you not having information you need to play the game well until after the game has already kicked you down and ground your face into the dirt over not having that information.
Well, that is a second part of it. It does rely on trial and error gameplay.
And I despise trial and error gameplay on a fundamental level.
Yeah, like, boy's at the extreme here, I should mention, if there are any of you out there who haven't played the game and were curious. I know that seems unlikely, but here we are. It's trial and error in the sense that there's not a lot of inherent punishment for fucking up.
There is some, but I was speaking with someone earlier today, and I think I got it down to a very simple metric. The only way Dark Souls really punishes you is time.
Yes.
Fucking up in Dark Souls doesn't cost you anything at the end of the day but time.
I could give you a perfect example. Today, I defeated the Gaping Dragon and came back, and there's a little door, the next place I have to go through. There's a little merchant man sitting there. He's very unique NPC. He sells some great gear toward the end of the game. Long story short, there were some monsters I hadn't cleared out. They were slimes that were just very slowly, sliming around, and I hadn't bothered with them. Well, one walked up while I was doing some business with him, which was fun because, it encroached, and I could see it under the menu, and I was like, one moment, my good man, and went to attack it. Unfortunately, I nudged him with my sword as I attacked the slime. And he was all, oh, this is going to be that way, have at you. Well, in Dark Souls, in order to settle them down, you have to get absolution. There is a merchant, a priest, in a tower who's really creepy, and he will give you absolution for your sins. So long as you don't kill the guy, go to him, ask for absolution, and for the cost of 500 souls per level, no matter how many sins you've committed, but for that cost, you are absolved. So I only found that out after I had spent all the crazy souls I got from my misadventures in defeating the boss.
So you had to grind.
I did have to grind, and I started with about 10,000. I needed 22. So I was grinding, and I was at about 14,000. Pretty close. I was in the Darkroot Garden where all the golems are, so it was just a matter of time. And then I lost my souls.
Dark Souls only punishes you in time.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that time is not a harsh punishment.
It can be. It
now,
really can be.
So for me, I started playing the game. I picked it up, and lo and beknownst to me, in trying finally to pick up Dark Souls, I gave the internet elitist nerds who like Dark Souls, as opposed to me, the internet reverse elitist who refused to play it, a staff to beat me with should I dare criticize the game, in that I accidentally picked the good class.
And it was mentioned that it is kind of the easy class, but watching the boy play, the struggles are just different.
Because, so, on the one hand, I'm told, in a game like Dark Souls, anything you can cheese, anything that gives you an unfair advantage against the computer, is something you want to take, because the computer's going to take every unfair advantage it can get against you.
Yeah, a lot of them are even built into the function of the game.
But for some reason, the same people who say this disdain picking the good class.
Well, because a lot of the core Dark Souls audience is about the difficulty.
These are contradictory statements. Take every advantage you can get, except actually taking advantages. Those are bad and make you less of a man.
It's like, especially when it comes to some of the bosses, less skill based. You stand back and you press your button. Especially if you can summon somebody to draw aggro, you stand back and press your button. It's, a lot more. It's a lot less.
It's just a contradictory statement.
Sure, no, and I see where they're coming from. I don't agree with them. Play the game however the fuck you want to play the game. There was a big controversy. I don't know.
I'm getting off topic. So I picked up the class. I started to play, and it was fun. I can also do the actual core battle mechanic. I'm actually good at it.
Yeah, if you had picked a melee class, I think you'd still even be like having an easier time than I did.
I'm good at video games. That was never the problem with Dark Souls. The problem with Dark Souls is there's 2 secret spearmen you can't possibly have known on the other side of this door, and when you go through it, they will spear you in the ass, and you will die instantly. Ha 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 ha. I am Dark Souls. That is the problem with this game. That is. The internet's gonna want to fight me here. That's shitty game design. It is. Trial and error gameplay is inherently a design that only exists to pad out game length.
I don't necessarily know that that's the case.
But, and there's a thing I want to say right up front. Get good is not a defense. It's a deflection. I can become the #1 best, most skilled, 0 damage speedrunner in Bubsy. Doesn't mean Bubsy's a good game. Get good is not a defense of a gameplay mechanic. It is a deflection. Unless there is an underlying logic to the gameplay that you are trying to make. Unless there's underlying logic to the gameplay, get good is not a defense. It's a deflection.
Well, but there is an underlying logic, and I think that's where the biggest hurdle in approaching Dark Souls. And I'm not going to pretend like there aren't certain sections that are just.
Yeah, there is a specific section which I actually would state is a mechanic. Is an actually very poorly designed mechanic that nobody could have QA'd. There's a bit where you're fighting rats that do poison. If they hit you twice, and please note if they hit you once, they stun lock you and then immediately hit you again. You get poisoned. And if you have a low endurance, I think, it lasts longer maybe. I haven't looked this up.
There's a bunch of stats.
I assume that that's what it is. Because I can only assume that that no one saw this before the game went live. Otherwise, how was it still there? If you are a mage class, starting mage class, go look at the sorcerer, having only leveled up really int and dex, and a little whatever the hit points thing is. If you get poisoned, you might as well kill yourself if you're low on souls, or if you're high souls, chug potions while you go back to the fire, because the poison will actually last long enough to kill you multiple times, and it's such that you have to drink all of your flasks to get back to the fire from where those rats are, or you'll die. Not some, all of them. That's bad. And if you try and defend it, you're going to have a really hard time convincing me it's not just poorly designed gameplay.
Is this where I raise my finger in the air and say challenge accepted?
I wanted to say all that because this game is not perfect.
No,
and it's not amazing and fucking wondrous and everyone should suck its dick like so much of its fan base seems to think. But it's not a bad game.
Well, and
I'm still playing it.
To that extent, I mean, I think it's an issue with fandoms in general, right? I mean, people enjoy something. It started. I don't want to name a specific year, but there was a point where when you enjoyed something, it became a fucking obsession. And like a cute obsession, like not a non-healthy obsession, but, you know...
I think it's always been a thing. I think the rise of the internet helped those people find each other.
Right. So the voices get louder, and when you're in a safe place and you can say those things and nobody judges you for it, it becomes your common parlance.
Dark Souls, I can only speak for one. I haven't played 2 or 3, but if they follow in the same vein, Dark Souls is not the greatest game ever made. It's not the greatest game franchise ever. It's not. I say I would hesitate to call it a good game, but that's mostly for personal preference reasons. I don't like trial and error gameplay.
No, yeah.
But from a purely objective, or as objective as I can be, I would say it's a good game. I don't think it's a great game.
I think its imperfections, when they pile up, is what stops it from being as good of a game as its fans claim it is. As its staunchest fans claim it is. Because that's really what you were experiencing specifically with the rats. And what I was experiencing specifically with the Taurus Demon when I got stuck there is a pileup of only like sort of bad design ideas.
But then they all pile up together and it becomes very bad design ideas.
Right. And when you're in with a community and like you're active on forums or you talk to a lot of other friends who are playing the hottest new games or whatever, and you can discuss these things, yeah, sure, you guys can help each other out. And there's that group, figuring shit out stuff. But when you're not, when those people are distant or inaccessible or just not within your circle of friends, you're left to kind of sit there and go, all right, well...
As a great example, normally when I play Dark Souls, you've been there, passing along the knowledge you have gained and gained from the other friend you mentioned who was giving you tips. And I don't think I'd like the game nearly as much if you weren't there, because without someone to be like, all right, stop. There's a fire to the right. The game would have been much more frustrating. Partially, again, for personal reasons. I have the sense of direction of a blind mole.
I have never noticed that so... in real life, sure. But in video games, I've never noticed that so strongly until I watched you playing Dark Souls.
I have a very bad sense of direction internally. I'm just bad at navigation. It's why I fucking love having a cell phone, because I can just Google Map shit.
I don't know that I'm the best in the world at it. But
I got a Skyrim compass given to me. I'll take it.
It's Dark Souls feeds a desire in me for old school D&D dungeon crawls.
A desire I've never shared.
Well, and that's actually part of that build-up issue, because there's a lot of stuff you missed by not exploring. Whereas it's my natural inclination to kind of go, all right, I know all these places and I have a safe spot to chill. Let's check out all the other branching paths we can until we either meet danger greater than we can fight or the end of the path.
Whereas I have such a strong inherent aversion to aversion to unnecessary risk in video gaming that I have all of these souls I need to spend. If I'm 0 souls, no, and humanity's not on, fine, I'll explore. But if I've got 7,000 and
sure.
I'm just sitting around, I need way more than that to level up, but it doesn't matter. I want to use them. I don't want to lose them, and it's really easy to lose them.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too, because you and a lot of other gamers, sometimes myself included, it takes more to get me there. But when I get there, hoo boy, meet repeated impediments with frustration that in most games helps push you past those impediments. You get that aggro on and you plow through whatever was pissing you off.
In Dark Souls, you kind of have to get past that point into the Zen place where your hair starts to lift up and turn yellow in order to get past certain challenges.
Or not get that point in the first place, stay calm. And like the spear guys, the not specifically existent ones, but definitely there's stuff like that they do. Secret spear guys behind a door. You eventually learn that you approach every fucking door and corner going, all right, is there someone on the right? No, it's clear. Is there someone on the left? Yes, there's a guy.
I do that now because In that specific, there are 2 spearmen on either side of the door who will stab you in the ass. No, that was a slight comedic exaggeration. It was 1 spearman and a sword and shield man.
Well, hell, there might be a point in the game that there are 2 spearmen.
Actually, I'm told a boss, one of the bosses in the game, is you go through the boss door, and there are 2 attack dogs on either side of the door, and then he's in the middle of a leaping attack.
Yeah, that was a rough fight. I'm curious to see how you're going to handle that.
I'm given to report from all of the people I've talked to about Dark Souls, been a couple, because I've been sharing around that I've finally started playing, and I'm like, I can finally nerd vomit at you about Dark Souls.
Which is what I understand as a community they love to do. I mean, and what fandom doesn't? You know,
That's true.
If you picked up Final Fantasy VI, I'd be sitting on your shoulders, just
doing,
vibrating.
What you doing, buddy? But
You're talking about the demon in the room.
Yeah, the demon in the room. He's apparently going to just wreck my shit. And I want you to be there because that will be the joyous comeuppance for all of the mild salt I see you carry when I walk through. I don't think there's been a boss that's killed me yet.
No, but you were on those rats for like an hour. And,
yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, like the first 2 times, I think once they killed me with the poison and I went, okay. And I went back the second time, they gave me a little bit of trouble. But after that, because there's a lot of shit after that that's hard to get through, after that, they weren't a big deal. They were just part of the circuit.
But because of the way my character works...
because of the way your character works, those rats were as much of a challenge for you as the fucking Taurus demon was for me.
Because I couldn't. But with the Taurus demon, I just sort of breezed through.
Yeah, you stood back and was just like, there, take laser bolts, you bitch. It was like the fucking...
I do... There are moments where I get the appeal of Dark Souls. I do. I get the appeal. The appeal isn't the grind. The appeal isn't the I just died to rats for the 55th time. The appeal is that one time you knock both rats off the balcony, dodge roll in twice, spin around, magic missile the third in the face, climb up the stairs and perfect run your way to the next fire, and then like just flex on the and then take the time to go back, kick the rats off into the distance.
Fuck you, suffer havoc engine.
It's not the grind. It's when there was this knight, fencer knight. I don't know what they're called.
The Baldric Knights.
Baldric Knights.
I called them fancy fencers.
Who was giving me problems. I just ran from him until I could find a way to get him on a ladder. And then, as the mage, I just shot magic missiles at him while he was climbing up and down the ladder trying to get away from me. That, victory through superior intelligence. It makes you feel really good.
Another spot that was a problem for you, the gargoyles, you had a little bit of struggle with. You went in non-optimal status, but you still ended up killing both of the gargoyles on your first try.
Yeah.
Good job.
Now, to be fair, I only got to live because I killed the gargoyle, because its last strike killed me. But it is an actual mechanic in the game that if you and the thing die the same, they give you a free hit point. Like, good job, buddy, you killed him.
It's nice.
But I assume it's because if you die and the thing dies at the same time, there's a mechanics problem.
Yeah, based on like where your equipment spawns and stuff, I'm sure it would cause issues. That made perfect sense when you suggested it at the time. However, the room before you get up to the gargoyles, that's full of like 10 shitty lowest
regular
level
ass zombies.
ghouls.
I don't have an AoE spell.
Just a bit too early in the game.
I was using a thrusting weapon at the time, which turns out ended up being better than a sweeping weapon for this particular job for me. But I had no way of damaging an area of people, and it was hard to bottleneck them small enough to keep them from just surrounding me and more or less gang fucking me. I mean, let's be real.
But I mean, like watching you go at that with all the consternation and sweat, it's just like your challenges are in different weird places from mine. That's all.
Because the bosses I have been summarily shit kicking.
Well, and that's when I started thinking, was like, what the fuck is he gonna do when he finds a Capra demon? Because like that was hard enough for me. Although it was one of those situations where, yeah, it seems unfair. You get in, homie does this, whatever. You know, it's Dark Souls. I got jump scared.
It's Dark Souls. Oh, there's 2 spearmen to stab me in the ass behind the door. Well, I mean, I could only really have seen it. Like, I assume there will always be spearmen behind every door.
So, but yeah, I saw that and went,
Which I
okay.
maintain this shit, but
I knew exactly what I needed to do. It was just a matter of, practicing enough to pull it off and having the right resources. I did that. I accomplished it. Boy going in, knowing what his kit is, knowing what he's able to do, I only see him going into that room and going, I can't. I don't know how. No, I looked up how, because I care about my friend and I want to help him.
I was given a piece of advice, which was juke to the right, run up the stairs, and then cap him from the top of the stairs.
Be careful juking to the right. You can get trapped that way real easy.
Nice.
And he will follow you up the stairs.
Right, but if I can get any distance, I can manage it. I just have to kill the dogs first.
The dogs are the worst. And you notice that, advice or not. Like, I went in the second time I fought him, and I was like, okay, if I could kill these dogs, he and I could fight like men, and this wouldn't be a problem.
But
you guys know that, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is a whole bunch of, this is, if there's any listener here, any of the listener who has played any of his many aspects, that is of Ultimate Dragon.
Right, yeah.
Who's played Dark Souls, they're just listening, just going, ugh, noobs.
Yeah.
Get good, scrubs.
That or, noobs. New people to enjoy the game. I'm gonna log in and wait for them.
Yeah, new people to enjoy the game, so I can log in right before a tough boss battle where you'd want to be human so you can summon Solaria for help. And I'm gonna wait right there beside his summon circle, and anytime someone shows up, I'm going to invade their world and kill them in one shot. This is a thing that really happened to me.
Wasn't very cool. But the guy's
I
name
led
was
Joe Score the Troll around for a while. I knew I was gonna die, but I wasted his time.
When I went up in that way to get my absolution earlier today, I saw a Soapstone message on the ground that says "Beware of miscreant." I was like, the boy was not the only one who fell prey to him.
But he's got himself a prime noob farm in place. I don't know why he has such little to do with his life that he's doing that.
It's a question. I mean, it's like
I got
WoW
shit
PvP
to do.
stuff.
Why
is your level 80 hanging out in the Barrens capping motherfuckers? Come on, dude.
Dark Souls punishes you in time, and I barely have time for Dark Souls. I have shit to do. I can't understand sitting around in a fully geared out high level person so that I can have a kit that's literally impossible to counter at low levels. Apparently that's a thing they do. And just one-shotting dudes who are just trying to get new characters through the game. I guess you assume at this point there's no one new, and anyone who has a low level character is like an old timer and you're just razzing them.
I don't know. Or they're just really super high and or drunk and doing it for the lulz, man. But
I got shit to do, man.
Well, I'm going to peel it back a little bit. I use the phrase Nintendo hard very specifically because it, as I said before, this game reminds me a lot of Castlevania. Between trekking back and forth between points, unlocking new areas as you do, like in Symphony of the Night, and the very hard, very specific placement of enemies that you saw in Castlevania 1. Those moments.
You gotta go at Medusa heads a certain way or they'll fuck you up.
Yeah, where there's that knight and all those Medusa heads up near Dracula that you just have to figure out how to get past, and it's going to take you some effort and some trying and some patience. But when you do it, you feel like a golden god, and you're like, yes, you post a video on the internet, I beat Castlevania in this amount of time, and people were like, that's really actually fucking incredible. Great job, dude.
Mom, get the camera.
Yeah, mom, get the camera, yeah. So it's a throwback in a lot of ways. It throws a lot of modern gaming convention out the window. I don't think it should have thrown it. I think it maybe should have made us a little bridge and said, hello, friend, you're coming into Dark Souls land. Things are different here.
I think also maybe it should have kept some of the bits.
I'd have to, and let me just put it this way. From what I understand, Dark Souls 2 is more refined. And 3 also more refined, but not more from 2, just differently. So, maybe that's something we'll appreciate more if I ever get around to doing that. Or 3, Bloodborne as well. I mean, that was half the reason I was interested in Dark Souls in the first place, is I watched a Game Grumps Let's Play Bloodborne, and I was like, this game looks fucking cool.
Yeah, it does.
Plague Doctors and Lovecraft Ghosts, sign me the fuck up.
Same. I'm still playing Dark Souls. For all the shit I've been giving it, I need that to be understood. I am still playing it, and I understand the appeal of the game. It has there's so much momentum inherent in playing it. It is just, one more run.
It's a lot of the atmosphere. This game builds atmosphere really well, from the graphics and the architecture, which you listen to me, wax poetic about for a while. The moods it sets when it does use music, what that music does for you. It's got a lot of really good...
It's got a lot of really, really good parts of its gameplay, too.
Yeah, it does.
For all that I think the enemy placement, I think, is the easiest way of explaining it, is some horse shit. I think the actual combat mechanics are really well done.
Incredibly deep. I would love to see combat mechanics like this in more games where each weapon feels unique.
To a very real degree. Like, there is a very marked difference between every weapon I've tried.
I've been using the katana. It's probably the weapon I'm going to take to the end of the game, from what I understand. And
I'm probably going to end up grabbing a spear, and once I find one, keeping it, because I need it to make it into a spear that scales with my main stat.
But, for example, that katana, when I have my shield equipped, because I'm using a fucking shield, it does like a diagonal slash for my light attack, and for my heavy attack, it does a long thrust. Not quite as long as the spear, which I had been using, but, it's serviceable.
And the diagonal slash is better than the spear's light.
Yeah. Because it gives me options. But when I put my shield away, suddenly I go full weeb, and...
If I do end up beating the game, and thus, since I'm playing easy modo, I'm okay at the game, I'm going to restart and go full weeb. I mean full no shield. I've confirmed there is a set of weeb armor in the game. I am going glorious Nippon. It's happening.
I wouldn't mind trying a faith build, or maybe a strength weapon. I don't know. This game definitely does have replay value.
I'm told pyromancy is fun because it's magic, like I have, but it doesn't require stats.
Yeah,
it just does what it does, and then you build your stats as a melee character.
Yeah, it's the way most people suggest to go. They're like, "Oh, you're new to Dark Souls, play pyromancy." It's a little less
a reliable ranged attack. Mm-hmm. You got to be good at melee. I get it. I went wizard first because wizard is best. If you've learned anything from the Tournaments podcast, that sentence should not surprise you.
I don't remember what my character is. A brigand, I think.
Wanderer?
Something. No, I'm not a wanderer. I want to say it's something like brigand. Who cares?
He's a ninja now, Susan.
I'm a ninja now. A ninja with a very European shield.
I found this kite shield. I'll use it.
It buffs my stamina regen, so fuck you.
I don't have honor. I am a ninja, not a samurai. All in all, I plan on probably playing the game when we turn this podcast off.
I plan on watching him and cringing.
Yeah. Both in jealousy and salt, and then when I get to the next boss, joyous, gluttonous, sweet revenge.
Yeah, this is if someone had told me Nintendo Hard ages ago, I would have been, like specifically? Yes, specifically. I understand entirely.
It's a really good way of encapsulating what the game is.
Yes.
And to date, I don't really like Nintendo hard games in general. I'm having fun with this one, largely because its central mechanic is good, and because, the atmosphere is really dope, though.
The atmosphere, the lore and stuff, man. If I were you, and those of you listening at home, if you haven't played the game before, start talking NPCs, start doing a little exploring and poking around, read those item descriptions. You find some interesting stuff. And then you start meeting people and going, wait, that guy is so-and-so of this place? I know that place. That place is where my ring came from. What does it mean? All
right. Everything's better when nerds talk about it.
Thanks.
Fuck it, let's get hardcore!